Hello students, today we'll have a glance on the topic that is plant growth and development. So to talk about this plant growth and development, the important point, the first thing which we need to study here is all the organisms on the earth have descended or they all have originated from the important cell that is called as zygote, which is nothing but the fertilized egg. Later this zygote undergoes division and differentiate to form the different organs such as roots, leaves, branches, flowers, fruits and seeds. So coming to the definition of the growth is nothing but it is the phenomena which can be considered as the permanent increase or the permanent change which we observe in case of an individual, which increase in the size of an organ or its parts or an individual cell, and it is an irreversible process. To coming to the one aspect which we need to study here is growth is said to be indeterminate. So indeterminate means when you compare that with the growth in case of the human being, in case of the human being growth is limited to the age of 18 or to 20 years. But in case of plant, what happens till the plant dies, the plant shows the growth. That is why this phenomena is called as what? The indeterminate. The reason for the indeterminate growth in case of the plant is plant continues to throughout the life due to the presence of the meristems. Because of the meristematic cells only the plant growth is said to be indeterminate. And when you consider the types of the plant growth, there are two types of plant growth we observe. One is called as primary growth, another one is called as the secondary growth. Primary growth is due to the action of the apical meristem that are present in the root region and the shoot region. They lead to the increase in the length of the plant body. Whereas the second type is the secondary growth. The secondary growth is brought by the lateral meristems such as vascular cambium and the cork cambium, which are formed during the secondary growth, which leads to the increase in the girth or increase in the diameter of the plant body. When the question arises, can we measure the growth in case of the plants? The answer is yes, of course we can measure the growth of the plants. So how we measure the growth in case of the plant when this question arises? Just by counting the number of the cells in an individual, or just by measuring the size of the cell, or just by measuring the length or measuring the surface area. Growth is said to be measurable, or we can say whether the organism has grown or not. When you consider the different phases of the growth, it could be studied in three different phases. The first phase would be meristematic phase. Here the plant will be under the division, that is they will show the high meristematic activity. Especially in the growing parts of the plant we are going to find the meristematic cells. The second phase is said to be the elongation phase. So in this elongation phase we can see the increase in the length of the plant cells due to the increased vacuolation or increase in the size or due to the deposition of the cell wall. The third phase is said to be the maturation phase. So this phase occurs because of the differentiation of the cell into the permanent cell. So this phase is called as what? The maturation phase. So during this maturation phase the cells will become permanent and they will take up some special functions. And when you look into the growth rates, so growth rate could be measured per unit time. And as you have studied, there are two types of growth rates. One is called as arithmetic growth rate and another one is called as the geometrical growth rate. So when you consider the arithmetic growth rate, following the mitotic cell division here, only one daughter cell continues to divide, whereas the others will differentiate and they will mature and they will take up some special functions. When you look into the graph in case of the arithmetic growth, the type of the growth or the type of the curve which we observe here is the linear curve. The second type of the growth curve which we observe here is the geometrical growth. So in geometrical growth, as you observed in case of the arithmetic, so there only one cell continues to divide, whereas the other will differentiate and mature. But in case of this geometrical growth, both the daughter cells will continue undergo, that is they will undergo mitotic cell division. Because of that, what happens, the initial growth will be slow and we find a sudden increase in the phase, which we are going to call it as the log phase or the exponential phase, and suddenly due to the depletion of the nutrient in the medium, what happens, the growth of the cell there itself stops, and that is called as the stationary phase. Because of all these events, we would end up with a kind of the growth that is called as the S curve, or we call it as what, the sigmoid curve. And this could be studied, or mathematically it can be explained with the formula called as W1 is equal to W0 e raised to RT. And the essential elements or the components which are needed for the growth are water, oxygen, nutrients, temperature, light and gravity. So all these factors or all these parameters must be they must be in an optimum condition for the overall growth and development of the plant. So as you already know the definition of the growth, it is an irreversible permanent increase in the size. So this growth can be observed by the three important phenomena or the processes which we observe in case of the plant. Those are differentiation, dedifferentiation and redifferentiation. So what is this dedifferentiation? Dedifferentiation, differentiation is called as, it's a process in which the dividing cells of the meristematic cells will lose the capacity of the division and they will become permanent, and this is called as differentiation. This is also leads to the development in case of the plants. Second one is the dedifferentiation. So in dedifferentiation, especially when you consider the secondary growth in case of the plants, in dedifferentiation what happens, the cells which have differentiated or the cells which have lost the capacity of the cell division, they will again regain the capacity of the division and they will become meristematic, and it is called as what, a dedifferentiation, which is seen or which is observed by the interfascicular cambium and the cork cambium. And the last phenomena is the redifferentiation. So redifferentiation means the cells which have undergone the dedifferentiation. So you know dedifferentiation, there the permanent cells have regained the capacity of the meristematic activity. Again, those cells which have regained the capacity of the meristematic activity, they will again lose the capacity of the division and they will become mature to perform specific functions, and this phenomena is called as what, redifferentiation. So all these three phenomena, that is differentiation, dedifferentiation and redifferentiation, are responsible for bringing the growth in case of the plants. And this plant development is overall influenced by certain factors which we are going to divide it into two groups. The first group is called as intrinsic factor, the second group is called as extrinsic factor. So intrinsic factors include some of the genetic factors that are present in the plant, the growth regulators or the growth hormones that are going to influence. So this genetic factor and the growth regulators are considered under the intrinsic factor, whereas the extrinsic factors includes the abiotic components such as light, temperature, water, oxygen, nutrients. So these are going to have the effect on the overall plant growth and development. So now the important aspect which we need to study, or on most of the questions you are going to get on these concepts, that is called as plant growth regulators, which are also called as what, the hormones, which are shortly abbreviated as what, plant growth regulators. These plant growth regulators are considered as, these are the small simple molecules which are secreted in a very small amount. So as same as you find the hormones in case of the human being, in the same way we are going to find certain chemicals or certain compounds released by the plants, which we call them as what, the PGR or the plant growth regulators. Based on their functions, PGRs can be grouped under two types. The first group is called as the plant growth promoters, second one are called as the plant growth inhibitors. So plant growth promoters, as the name itself indicates, they will promote the growth of the plant. That is how they will promote, just by increasing the cell division or just by increasing the size of the cell, or allowing the flowering, fruiting, or promoting the seed formation. So all these things are done by certain groups of the plant growth regulators, and those are called as the plant growth promoters. Examples for the plant growth promoters are certain kinds of chemicals called as auxins, gibberellins and the cytokinins. The second group of the hormones or plant growth regulators are called as what, the inhibitors. So you can, regulation means either they may promote, means regulation means a kind of control, either they may promote, that is they may increase, or they may inhibit. So that is why promotion plus inhibition together, we can call it as what, the regulation. So that is why these are considered as what, the regulators. The second group of the plant regulators are the plant growth inhibitors. So what they will do, they will inhibit the activities in case of the plant. So how they will inhibit, So they will inhibit the activity of the plant by inducing the dormancy in case of the plant, or by inducing the abscission or aging in case of the plants. So that is why these are considered as what? The plant growth inhibitors. Examples for the plant growth inhibitors are the abscisic acid and ethylene. Now we will concentrate on the first group of the plant growth regulator, that is the auxin. So when you go back to the history of the discovery of this plant growth regulators, so these plant growth regulators were studied by the scientist called Charles Darwin and his son Francis Darwin when they were studying on the coleoptile. You can find in this slide the diagram, coleoptiles of the canary grass. So in this canary grass, when they were exposed, that is the growing tip of this coleoptiles were exposed to the light, they could be able to absorb the certain chemicals in the tip of these coleoptiles, and they named these as what, they could be able to absorb the certain chemicals in the tip, which are nothing but the auxins. But these auxins were isolated from the tips of the coleoptile from this scientist called as F.W. Wendt. So you must remember here, auxins were isolated from the coleoptile of the seedlings, and not only that, the auxins was first isolated from the human urine. And coming to the types of this auxins, we can classify the auxins into two types, natural auxins and synthetic auxins. Naturally, if these are produced from the plant, or if you isolate them from the plant body, these are called as the natural auxins. Example for natural auxins are the indole 3-acetic acid, this is IAA, IBA, indole butyric acid, which are isolated from the plant. Whereas the synthetic auxin example is NAA and 2,4-D. NAA stands for naphthalene acetic acid and 2,4-D stands for 2,4-dichlorophenoxyacetic acid. So chemically in the laboratory, artificially we can synthesize these auxins, that is why these are called as the synthetic auxins. Coming to the physiological effect of these auxins or the functions of the auxins, auxins are known to initiate roots in stem cuttings, hence they are useful in vegetative propagation of the plants. That is, whenever you bring a cutting of, say for example, hibiscus plant, so when you insert that cutting into the soil, from that cutting there must be initiation of the roots. So that initiation of the roots from the stem cuttings would be brought about by whom? It is brought about by the auxins. Not only that, they are going to promote the flowering in case of pineapples, they are going to prevent the abscission. Abscission is nothing but the falling of the young leaves and immature fruits. These are some functions. Not only that, they will induce parthenocarpy. Parthenocarpy is nothing but it is a phenomenon of production of fruits without fertilization, and such fruits are said to be seedless. Example, tomatoes, papaya, etc. Some auxins such as 2,4-dichlorophenoxyacetic acid are widely used as herbicides. They selectively kill weeds which are mostly dicots in agriculture fields where the monocot crops are grown. The auxins are known to cause the apical dominance. You might have heard about the word, that is apical dominance. So apical dominance means here what happens, the growing apical bud is going to inhibit the lateral buds. In this side you can find these are the lateral buds and this is the apical growth. You can find the shoot tip growing, whereas the whatever the lateral branches are there, they will not grow. Because of this, what happens, you could see the increase in the length or the linear elongation of the plant, and this is due and this phenomena is called as what? The apical dominance. This apical dominance is phenomena which is found in the growing apical bud, which inhibits the growth of the lateral buds, is called as apical dominance, and this apical dominance is mainly due to the presence of these auxins in the shoot tip or in the apex of the stem. And the same could be, this action could be neutralized. That is, when you remove the shoot tips, this removal of the shoot tips is called as decapitation. So by doing this decapitation, we can overcome the phenomena of apical dominance and we can allow the growth of the lateral buds. And the same phenomena, that is decapitation, is applied in the tea plantation and the hedge making in order to suppress the apical dominance which is done by the auxins. The second type of the growth regulator, so the second group very important growth regulator which we need to study is gibberellins, or it is also called as gibberellic acid. They are a type of plant growth promoters. slightly they are acidic in nature. They will bring about the internodal elongation. Mainly what is the function? They will bring in the increase in the length of the internode, and they are help for seed germination, bolting. Later we will be studying that. So when you look back to the history of the discovery of all these gibberellins, gibberellins were discovered by Japanese scientists called Kurosawa, Yabuta and Sumuki when they were studying on foolish seedling disease or Bakane disease of rice plants. So seedlings with this disease grow very tall due to rapid internodal elongation, but they do not produce what? Grains. So this is called as what? The Bakane disease or foolish seedling disease. And this disease is caused by a fungus called as Gibberella fugicori, caused by the fungus called as Gibberella fugicori, which is known to produce gibberellins. Hence the name is called as gibberellins is given to this hormone. And we can have varieties of the types of the gibberellins, GA1, GA2, GA3 and so on, which can be produced by the fungus, and even we find them in the plants. And when you talk about the physiological effect of these gibberellins, gibberellins are known to cross or they will increase the length of the plant axis. The best example which we can find them in case of the grapes. And the next effect which we can find is they will improve the shape of the fruits, they will help in the elongation of the fruits, such as in case of the apple. And then they delay the senescence, that is aging is delayed by the application of these hormones, thereby they will help the fruits to be present in the plants for a longer period, so as to extend the market period. And then spraying, GA3 is used to speed up the malting in brewing industry, that is in the production of the alcohol in the beverage industry. If we add the gibberellic acid, it will speed up the fermentation process. And then it is also known to elongate the internodes in case of the sugar cane, so that the yield of the sugar cane is increased. Then the gibberellins are known to induce the early seed production in conifers, causes germination of seeds by breaking the dormancy of the seeds. So these are the effects. And one of the important phenomena which we can observe here is bolting. So bolting is a phenomena which you can find it in the plants such as cabbage, beet, etc. So in case of the bolting, what happens? The internodes usually, in case of cabbage and beetroot, the internodes are very short. The habit of the plant would be rosette form. You can find it in the form of the petals of the rose, how they are closely arranged, and such kind of habit is called as what? The rosette habit. But due to the application of this gibberellins, what happens? Sudden increase in the length of the elongation or increase in the length of the internode region occurs. And such type of cabbage or the beets will not be having any kind of the value in case of the market. That is, internode elongation in case of these plants is also brought by whom? It is brought by the gibberellins. The third important plant growth regulator is the cytokinins. So to talk about the cytokinins, why the name cytokinins? Because these are the plant growth promoters which will induce mainly the cell division in case of the plants, and they were discovered by Miller and Skoog from the internodal segments of the tobacco, and they came to know that for the differentiation of the callus, that is, callus is the unorganized mass of the cell, from the callus morphogenesis must occur, that is, from the callus stems must arise, leaves must arise. So when these callus were applied or when they were treated with the coconut milk, or the yeast extract or some of the vascular tissues, they must be able to see the morphogenesis in case of the callus. It's all because the extract, yeast extract, coconut milk and the vascular tissues, they contain the important hormone that is called as the cytokinins, which will bring about the cell division and the morphogenesis. And coming to the types of this cytokinins, again we have natural cytokinins and the artificial cytokinins. One of the cytokinin called as zeatin, we can get it from the kernels of the corn and in the coconut milk. So this zeatin is example for the natural cytokinin, And another cytokinin which I would to introduce you is the BAP, that is benzyl aminopurine, is example for the synthetic cytokinin. Then physiological effects of the cytokinin. Cytokinins are known to induce cell division. They will cause morphogenesis in case of the callus. That is why they are very much useful in tissue culture. They are involved in differentiation of chloroplasts from the proplastids, lignification of the tracheids, development of the cambium, lateral shoot growth, adventitious root formation. That is why they are very much helpful in the growth of the plant, and they initiate growth of the lateral buds, as I have said, and even in the presence of the apical bud. That is, the neutralization effect of the auxin is brought about by whom? Is by the cytokinins. And they also cause the delay of the senescence, aging, that is, senescence is the aging, and then they will break the dormancy of the seeds and they will promote germination. And the next plant growth regulator is ethylene. It is considered as one of the inhibitor. So why, you will come to know. So when you talk about this ethylene, ethylene is a gaseous plant growth hormone, and these were confirmed by the cousins from the ripe oranges, which has facilitated or which will force the unripe bananas to ripe. That is, the scientist called Cousins. He observed that when the ripened oranges were kept along with the unripened bananas, they forced the unripened bananas to be ripened. And later he came to know that it is because the ripened oranges were released the gaseous volatile form of the gas, that is called as the ethylene, which forced the unripened banana to ripen. So this is how the history of this ethylene goes, and usually it is synthesized by the tissues that are undergoing senescence and the fruits which are ripening. And when you talk about the physiological effect of this ethylene, ethylene is known to induce the horizontal growth of the seedlings, swelling of the excess. It promotes senescence and abscission of the plant organs like leaves and fruits. Abscission of the plant growth, it's going to induce the abscission of the plant organs like leaves and fruits. It also breaks the seed and bud dormancy and induces their germination, as it is seen in case of the peanut seeds, potato tubers, and it is known to initiate the flowering and synchronized fruit set in case of pineapples, and it causes a ripening of the fruits. That is, it enhances the rate of respiration during respiration. So this rise in the rate of respiration will help in the production of more and more enzymes, which will lead to the ripening of the fruits. So these all are what some of the effects brought by the ethylene. And to talk about the commercial availability of this ethylene can be available. It is most widely used compound, and the most widely available source of ethylene is the compound that is called as the ethaphone. So when this ethaphone is added to water, it dissolves in water, that is, in the aqueous solution of ethaphone, it is readily absorbed and transported within the plant, and it releases the ethylene slowly. Ethylene gas is slowly released into that aquatic solution, and that ethaphone hastens the ripening of fruits such as tomatoes, apples, bananas, etc. And not only that, it is known to induce the production of the female flowers in cucumber plants, and thereby it is going to increase the yield. So this is the effect of the ethylene. The next plant growth inhibitor is the abscisic acid. So abscisic acid is the first growth retarder to be identified, and it was discovered by the scientist called F.T. Endicott in potato tubers. It is also known as a stress hormone, as more of it is produced under the condition of stress, and its other name are dormin and abscissin. When you look into the physiological effect of this abscisic acid acts as an plant growth inhibitor, and it inhibits the plant metabolism. It also inhibits the seed germination. It induces dormancy in seeds, buds and storage organs. It causes closure of the stomata and increases the tolerance of plants to various kinds of stresses. It acts as a natural anti-transpirant, as it prevents the transpiration by bringing about stomatal closure. It also stimulates the synthesis of the ethylene, so that which will induces the senescence or aging in case of the plants. So, these are some physiological effects of the abscisic acid. And when you talk about this plant growth regulator or the interactions, so each and every plant growth regulator have the individual or the synergetic activity which will lead to the overall development of the plant and growth regulators. And as I already said, what are the intrinsic factors and extrinsic factors that have the effect? The last concept that we need to study here is role of light and temperature on flowering. So, when you talk about the role of light and temperature in case of the flowering, here we need to study one of the concept that is called as photoperiodism. So, what is this photoperiodism? It is nothing but the effect of the relative length of the day and night on the growth, development and flowering in plants is called as photoperiodism. So, the duration of the day length that favors flowering and other activities of the plants is called as the photoperiod. That is, some plants require the light to induce the flowering, and based on the light duration, plants are divided into three groups. The first groups are called as long day plants, second are called as short day plants, and third are called as the day neutral plants. So, to talk about the long day plants, what are these? They are the plants which flower when they receive light above the critical day length. Example are wheat, oat, barley, etc. The second group comes the short day plants. They are the plants which flower when they receive the light below critical day length. Example, soya bean, chrysanthemum and dahlia. The last group includes the day neutral plants. So, day neutral plants are the plants, these plants are indifferent to day lengths in their flowering. They can produce flowers after completing their vegetative phase throughout year if the conditions are favorable. Example, cucumber, maize, cotton. So, in this slide you can find that is short light duration and dark light, and then the medium day neutral, and in this you can find the dark is more and the light is less. So, depending on the need of the light for the production of the flower, the classification of the plants is short day plants, long day plants and day neutral plants. The next important aspect which we have to study is that is vernalization. So, what is this vernalization? Vernalization is nothing but it is meeting the chilling temperature required, the cold temperature required for some of the temperate plants artificially, so as to reduce the duration of their vegetative phase and initiate the reproductive phase, that is the flowering. That is, in this phenomena what is done, the plants are exposed to the temperature, low temperature, so that from the vegetative phase they are forced to enter into the reproductive phase, that is, they are made to produce the flowers. So, this phenomena is called as what? The vernalization. So, depending on this vernalization is successfully being used in winter annuals and biennials. In nature, winter annuals are sown in autumn. They form seedlings and remain in seedling stage during winter and resume growth in spring. They will produce flowers and fruits before the onset of autumn. Whereas in biennials, vegetative growth is completed in the first year. The plants stop further growth in winter. They resume growth in the spring when flowering is seen. So, here what happens, the artificial cold treatment helps both winter annuals and biennials to grow flowers and fruit in the same year without passing throughout the year. And this the same thing I said, the biennials are the sugar beet, cabbage, carrot. So, here vegetative growth is completed in the first year and the plants will stop further growth in the winter. So, this is all about what the plant growth